Hey, pizza mozzarella! What's up? It's the Culture Detective here, investigating your favorite mangas. And today I'm going to be doing a long-awaited video, a video that I've been dying to make for a very long time. And that is a review of JoJo's Bizarre Adventures Part 7 Steel Ball Run Manga, Volume 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So yeah, because I don't want to film a video every time I finish a volume, and also, because I want to have more time to, finish other stuff. So I decided to review JoJo every 6 volumes. So for Steel Ball Run, there's going to be 4 videos, and this is the second one. So without further ado, let's talk about Volume 7, which is called A Little Grave on the Wide, Wide Prairie. Also, look at this cover. Look at the pink. Look at the cyan blue. So beautiful. This cover is delicious. Also, all the other covers are amazing. I mean, they're all super stylish. So, a quick recap on Steel Ball Run Volumes 1 to 6. Johnny and Gyro have teamed up on a race called the Steel Ball Run Race. Their goal is to go from the San Diego beach all the way to New York City, and on a horse in the year 1890. Now, in my opinion, volumes 1 and 2 are a little bit boring compared to what's yet to come. And I read the first 6 volumes of Steel Ball Run in over half a year, I think. Maybe even more. But I read volumes 7 to 12 within 2 or 3 months because it's so much more entertaining and so much more fun to read. Every time I go back home from college, I'm like, let me read a chapter first. So, Steel Ball Run volumes 7 to 12 is much more entertaining and much more fun than the first 6 volumes, in my opinion. That is not to say that the first 6 volumes are bad or anything. Especially the first 2 volumes, I think it's good that Araki tried to write a story that has no stands and it's just purely one race. And there's something I can respect about that. And then we have the first villain, Tomb of the Boom, which wasn't really that memorable or anything. But again, it's better to start off low and then get better and better and better, which is what Steel Ball Run is actually doing. So right off the bat, we have Volume 7, and it immediately... also, by the way, spoiler alert, if you haven't read Volume 7 to 12, you're going to be bombasted with spoilers. But right off the bat, we continue with where we last left off, with a fight with Diego Brando and scary monsters. Now, this is easily the most interesting fight thus far because they're fighting dinosaurs, which is really weird. We've never really seen that before, but anything can happen at this point. And what's also very interesting is that apparently the stand user isn't Diego, it's this doctor by the name of Dr. Ferdinand, which makes it even more interesting. Oh, so you're telling me that Diego has another stand. I wonder what that could be. But what's really interesting is that every piece of the corpse shows something. So when Johnny had the... was it left arm or right arm? Tusk was activated. And then when we have the eyeball, you can see the eyeball actually says turbo, which is very interesting. What does that mean? It is moments like this that make the story more and more interesting. So now not only do we have to keep track of the stand battles and what stage of the race they're in, but now we also need to keep track. What corpse parts do they have? And also, eventually these corpse parts, they belong to everyone. Like, Johnny will receive a part of the corpse and then someone else will take it and someone else will take it from that person and it gets passed around. So it gets kind of complicated, like who has these bits, who has what parts of the corpse. So anyways, Diego Brando's fight with Johnny and Gyro's fight with scary monsters is really fun. Hopefully it looks good in the anime, because animating dinosaurs will be a little bit difficult, but hopefully it's good. Now we have entered stage 3, where they have to travel from Canyon City, Colorado to Kansas. And this is where things get very interesting, because they had to cross this lake, and it is this moment where I have seen some of the most beautiful panels in the entire manga. Hold on. I mean, look at this close-up. Whoa, look at this close-up. There's a lot of very beautiful, impressive close-ups in this thing that kind of blew my mind. Yes, okay. Whoa, look at Johnny, and then look at Gyro over here. They look photorealistic, or more like photorealistic in the world of Araki. You know, real people probably don't look like this, but they look so good. And then the next page, we see another extra close-up. Extreme close-up of Gyro's face. Just a skinny panel between the eye and the nose, right? Beautiful. Amazing. And I also really love it that at first Gyro is the more powerful person against Johnny, because obviously Johnny is a cripple. And Johnny doesn't know the spin. But it is in this moment where you can start feeling that Johnny is becoming more powerful. Because Johnny has the hunger to win no matter what it takes. Whereas Gyro doesn't. Gyro just wants to win for something. So it's really interesting. There's this back and forth dynamic between Johnny and Gyro. Which one is more powerful? Which one is less powerful? And this kind of reminds me of how Walter White and Jesse Pinkman in Breaking Bad, they always fight. Sometimes it's like Jesse has the upper hand. Sometimes it's like Walt is the upper hand. At the end of the day, they're friends. But there's this dynamic, there's this back and forth dynamic that makes that friendship interesting. A little bit later in the manga, in the volume, we have the legendary scene that is "Eat shit, fall of your horse," which is one of the most interesting, most memorable moments in the entire Steel Ball run. Let me find where that is. Okay, so for some reason I can't find it. I can't find the "eat shit, fall of your horse" moment. But it was somewhere around here when they encountered hot pans, somewhere along stage 3. And I actually think it's really interesting because it is at this point where you don't know who is the villain, who is a side villain. So Hot Pants started off as like a side villain, like, oh, she's an antagonist. But then you realize that she becomes a protagonist momentarily when they fought Ringo Road again with the Stand Mandem. So it's really interesting that Araki is trying to break the monster of the week structure by introducing characters where you don't know if they're going to be antagonists or protagonists, maybe temporarily, maybe permanently, maybe they're going to come back later. It gets more and more unpredictable, which is what I really love about Volume 7 and onwards. Moving on, we have Volume 8, To a Man's World, where it starts off, first of all, look at this cover. Look at this giant SBR. But right off the bat, we have what is the best fight of the entire manga, of the entire Steel Ball run so far, and that is the fight against Ringo Road again, who has the Stand Mandem. And Ringo Road again is like this very chill guy. I would imagine that he's very soft-spoken and has sort of this country twang, like Kansas accent, if that's a thing. But it is really overpowered of a stand, because a stand can essentially rewind time for 6 seconds. And usually a time control ability is in JoJo is usually like a late villain, if not the big main villain. And to think that not even halfway through Steel Ball Run we already have a time control stand is really freaking wild. And also in this arc, I guess, guessing the villain's ability is half the fun. And that's what I really love about JoJo and Araki's work. And that is whenever we have stand fights, especially in part 6 and part 7, half the fight is also trying to guess what is the stand's ability. Okay, so I just spent the last 20 fucking minutes sitting here just scrolling through the manga just to find that one panel that I really, really loved when I first read it, and turns out it's at the very end of the fight between Gyro and Ringo Road again, and it's in between 2 pages. But this 2 panels rock balls. Holy, I'm gonna show the colored version here. Just a stone cold expression on Ringo Road again's face, the pistol pointing at the viewer, and then Gyro's reaction with the ball coming out from him. It's just, oh my god. So anyways, this is volume 8, To a Man's World. Now, one small gripe I have with the Mandem fight is that it felt really short in the manga. Maybe it's because I read it too fast, but it did feel kind of short. But hopefully in the anime, it's gonna be animated longer. Also, the final chapter of this volume actually is not about Johnny and Gyro at all. The entire chapter is dedicated to Lucy Steele stealing a pigeon, a message from a pigeon. And that's really interesting because I think Araki's trying his very best to expand the story a little bit, and instead of always focusing on Johnny and Gyro every single chapter, we now have another protagonist, another side storyline that sort of interacts with the main storyline, and the world building, it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So very interesting. Now we move on to volume 9. Volume 9, A Stormy Night is coming. Another delicious volume chapter. I really like that Johnny's clothes sort of blend in with the wood, but then Gyro just stands out. It's just, oh my god, how did you even come up with this? But volume 9 is amazing because it is the Catch the Rainbow fight, which, in my opinion, is even better than Ringo Road Again's Mandem fight. And partially it's because it's not like a fight that we would usually encounter in JoJo. Usually in JoJo we have characters, we have villains, and then they fight for a very long time, for like an entire episode. It's just one gigantic fight, and then it ends. But in here it's different because the fight with Catch the Rainbow right here is actually a fight that's separated into 3 parts. So the first part of the fight is between Catch the Rainbow and Mountain Tim. Also Mountain Tim, he's alive? What? So that's really interesting to see Mountain Tim coming back. And then the second part of the fight has something to do with Johnny and Gyro fighting Diego again for the second time. Because they're racing to find the next corpse part, which is the spine. And also, I really love this panel where at the end of the chapter, we just have the faces of these characters. If I was the director of the anime, I would show each of the face in slow motion with like very intense music and then, to be continued. But this is really cool. And then the fight continues where Catch the Rainbow is fighting Lucy Steele, which of course, when you have one of the most overpowered stands in Steel Ball Run fighting a 14-year-old girl, it's not very fair, would it? He's also very fucking creepy. He's just a very creepy guy. I don't know why, but the name Blackmore sounds really British. I'm expecting like a British accent if this turns into an anime and then there's an English dub. But one really interesting thing is actually how different corpse parts have different functions. So this isn't explored more, but when Blackmore took the spine from Lucy Steele, he started to teleport around. And it makes me wonder, is that the ability of the spine? Does the spine teleport people around, or is it just the spine, bringing other corpse parts closer to each other? But this is really, really interesting. The fight between Johnny and Gyro and Diego continues, which is, again, Araki trying to break the monster of the episode formula. We have the big villain, which is Funny Valentine. We have the side villain, who also constantly reoccurs in the story, which is Diego Brando. We have episodic villains like Cash the Rainbow. So we have 3 villains operating at the same time and multiple protagonists. Lucy Steele, Johnny and Gyro, Hot Pants, but Hot Pants has disappeared. Like, it's a lot more unpredictable this way, and I really, really appreciate that. And then, of course, we have the final fight with Cash the Rainbow, which is really nice. It's a very short fight. Also, this shot where Johnny and Gyro, they're looking for it, and then a body just slowly descend on them. Ooh, I can't wait for this to be animated. Lucy keeps crying. She keeps crying in the story. I mean, I would too if I were her, but But yeah, this is essentially Volume 9. Volume 10, Illinois Skyline, Michigan Lakeline. First off, ooh, look, it's Diego standing there like a champion. Ooh. First of all, this volume is amazing. And the first reason being not again. I can't find it again. Okay, hold on. Where is it? Pizza mozzarella, pizza mozzarella, pizza. And then it continues. He sings about Gorgonzola. Zola, 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 Zola. It's really interesting because the canon Pizza Mozzarella song right now is in the Eyes of Heaven game, and it's like Pizza Mozzarella, but it's bad. It's bad songwriting. So some Japanese YouTuber, 13 years ago, created Pizza Mozzarella, Pizza Mozzarella, and now almost every Steel Ball Run fan dub and every Pizza Mozzarella meme video also uses this as canon, even though this is not canon in the first place. So it's very interesting. I also like that Diego Brando is becoming bigger and bigger of a hater. In the beginning, he's just like this rival, but now he truly hates Johnny and Gyro and wants them dead. So Diego is becoming more and more convincing of a villain, and to see a person being more and more villainized in a story is really interesting. Then we have the Silent Wave fight, which is, again, the best fight of Steel Ball Run so far. Ooh, look at this pose! But yeah, the Silent Wave fight is easily the best fight of the part so far. Also, very difficult to read in black and white. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just not used to reading manga. But I kind of can't tell what is happening here. Like, I don't know. So this is Johnny's face. This is his legs. And they're being chased after by some stuff. And they're on a horse at the same time, I believe. And they're in a cornfield. See, there's corn in here. But it's just kind of difficult to visualize what's going on without colors. So obviously I had to go to some other websites to read it in color, or to reread it in color in order to be able to figure out what's really going on. But yeah. Also another thing is young Johnny Joestar. Hearing him say, "I was born Jonathan Joestar," is really satisfying. Also, Danny is a mouse, which is again really interesting change in story. Volume 11, Make the Golden Rectangle. This is easily the best volume of Steel Ball Run so far, because we immediately continue with the fight with Silent Wei. Silent Wei is so overpowered, by the way. So overpowered. If you can recall, in part 4, one of my personal favorite stands is Echo's Act 2, because it's so overpowered. When you use it creatively, and when a villain uses Echo's Act 2, it can actually be very destructive. And turns out, we have it in Steel Ball Run. Echo's Act 2 now becomes In a Silent Way. And not only is this a very destructive fight, but also it gets really interesting when Johnny needs to spin his nails and Gyro wants to help him only if he says, I can't do it 4 times. Not only is this interesting because it's an interesting plot device, like, ooh, so when is Johnny gonna say it 4 times? But also, this forces Johnny to learn by himself. And that raises the stakes because Johnny is barely a good stand user. How is he going to survive this? This is Sandman's betrayal. So it turns out the villain is Sandman. What the fuck? So Sandman, in the beginning of Steel Ball Run, Sandman is the first character that appeared. And throughout the entire story thus far, we are led to believe that Sandman is going to be a protagonist, and Sandman's going to help out Johnny and Gyro because, you know, he just has that protagonist vibe. You know, he's a Native American. He's trying to fight for his ancestors' land. It's like, yeah, of course he's like a hero. He's like a main character. He's like a protagonist, sure. He's an antagonist. And this is such a huge betrayal. This is Johnny's reaction. Oh my god. This is intense. And throughout the entire fight, Johnny's just crying nonstop. He's just crying, screaming. As you can see, Gyro is basically nearly dead at this point. He lost a leg and a hand, and Johnny is dying at the same time. This is really the rock bottom of Johnny and Gyro. They're both nearly dead. And then we have what is the most powerful scene of the entire Steel Ball Run so far. So, let me give you a quick look. Johnny wants to take Gyro's buckle, because Gyro's buckle is the golden rectangle. But Johnny can't do it. Johnny can't spin his nails in the golden ratio. So he's screaming, he's giving up, he doesn't know what to do. So now he begins to think, okay, so where did this golden ratio come from, actually? Does it come from Mona Lisa? It came from this different artwork, you know, stuff like that. But he's still confused. He still doesn't know, he still can't make the golden rectangle. He's still failing, everyone's dying, he's crying. This is a terrible situation. And then suddenly, a butterfly lands on his hand, and he sees the butterfly's wings, and then he sees that the butterfly wings, they all have the golden rectangle, and the shells, and the leaves. And then at the very end, he sees Danny. And then suddenly, he's able to make the golden rectangle. He's able to do the golden ratio spin. Holy fuck. I almost cried when I first read this part. Not only is because Danny's return is like so emotional, like at your rock bottom when you're nearly dead, seeing that little glimpse of hope is just such an emotionally overwhelming moment. So this is easily, by far, the best fight and the most powerful fight, not only in Steel Ball Run, but like one of the best fights in the entire JoJo so far, just because of that. So obviously they survived, and Johnny continues to fight Sandman with the golden ratio spin, which is very fucking amazing. Alright. After that, Hot Pants finally showed up. But instead of helping Johnny and Gyro, she steals the spine. What the fuck? This is another amazing thing about Steel Ball Run is Araki uses paranoia as a plot device. You think Hot Pants is a good person? Well, maybe she's not. You actually don't know where she stands. Even though we experience an entire arc with Hot Pants, we don't know. Actually, we don't know. We don't know where does Hot Pants stand. Hot Pants could be an antagonist. She could be a protagonist. We don't know. At the end of the day, you cannot trust anyone. Other than Johnny and Gyro and Lucy, no one else can be trusted. And I really like that. It's very different from part 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Because in those parts you get a gang. And in that gang you trust everyone in that gang. But in here you don't. You only have Johnny and Gyro and a 14-year-old girl. So the stakes are way higher. So now we enter the final chapter, right? I really like that they just wake up and it's snowing. It's like, ooh, something is happening. First it's the rainstorm, and then they fight Sandman, and now it's snowing. Ooh, what is going on? This is when they encounter Sugar Mountain, which is incredibly interesting because this isn't a villain, nor is this a friend. So is this a friend or is this a foe? Also, the Sugar Mountain is basically like an Aesop fable, but Araki puts his own spin, get it, on the Aesop fable, and make it something very JoJo, and that's very interesting. So again, it's not a villain stand, nor is it a friendly stand. It's just sort of a bit of a lesson for Johnny and Gyro, and a bit of a lesson for the viewers as well. Another really cool thing is, let's see if I can find it. There it is. We are already teased the 11 men. And then immediately after Gyro senses the 11 men, a girl catches Gyro's steel ball, which is Sugar Mountain. And I really like that. We're teased this 11 men, and it's fucking ridiculous, first of all. The idea that Johnny and Gyro has to fight 11 dudes is so ridiculous. I really look forward to that fight. But then we're just going to suspense that a little bit. We're just going to tease that, but not go there yet. And instead, we're going to go a detour to Sugar Mountain. So the story dynamic gets way more interesting because now we have this thing that's going to happen in the near future, but then something is happening now that sort of leads to the near future, and then we have something that's going to happen in the future. So it's really interesting. But it is in this part where I start to think to myself, okay, what is Lucy Steele doing? You know? So we have more of that on volume 12. Volume 12, Conditions for the Body, Conditions for Friendship. Lucy Steele's on the cover, so you know we're going to have more Lucy this time around. But it's very interesting. So right now, Johnny and Gyro are trying to spend as much money as possible. So the small fable is, of course, someone dropped an axe. Is it a golden axe, an iron axe, or a stone axe? Right? And you have to be honest. Oh, I dropped the stone axe. But the real fable is, now you get all these things, but now you have to spend all of them before sunset. So now they're trying to waste as much money as possible. So it's like, this is the real fable. This is the real challenge now. And that's really interesting. That is abruptly interrupted by the 11 men. What's awesome about this fight is that there's no introduction. The 11 men show up, they pull out their guns, and they start shooting. They don't explain themselves. They don't even tell Johnny and Gyro their names. We have no other information other than the fact that they're just 11 dudes stacked on top of each other, and they want to shoot Johnny and Gyro. That's all we need to know. And I didn't expect it to be an all-out shootout, so it's literally an entire chapter of nothing but just shooting, gunfight, literally, which is fucking insane. Like, I totally didn't expect JoJo to be like this. It's just straight up like a gun battle, which is A, very country. B, it's not really a stand fight anymore. It's just like gunfight. I didn't expect it to be like that. I expected this fight to be more of a smarting and outsmarting kind of fight. And also, maybe it's because it's not dialogue heavy at all and it's full of gun shooting. It felt really, really short. So again, hopefully in the anime they animate it longer. But they win the fight, which is really cool. But they're still turning into trees. If they don't waste all the things they have received, they're gonna turn into trees. Even though they wasted all the money, they're still turning it into trees. And then Johnny realized that apparently he also needs to use up the arm and the ears of the corpse. And then his reaction, one of my favorite panels, just him being all shocked. Uso! Just what a crazy ass panel. I really love that. We see that face again. Poggers. Johnny Poggers. Johnny Pog. I really love this scene. Also, I guess another gripe I have with the Tattoo You fight is that it ends off a little bit like an ass pool. Like, Johnny and Gyro is dying again. They're losing a lot of blood, they're dying. Suddenly they win because Gyro hired a bunch of bodyguards. That's a very last minute thing. It's a little Deus Ex Machina, but anyways, it's all right. It's an all right fight. Then we have the used bottle of wine scene, which I really love because it's country as fuck. Yeah. So Johnny got the arm and the ears just to lose them again, and instead he got an unfinished bottle of wine. That's so country. That's so Wild West. This is amazing. So again, like it's interesting to see the interplay between Johnny and Gyro. You know, Gyro being the weaker one, Johnny being the one with the will to, you know, spend to give away the corpse parts. So it's really interesting. Now we move on to the last bit of the volume where we have Balloon Dog, Tubular Bells. So it's crazy that the stands in Steel Ball Run and the stands in JoJo in general, they get more and more obscure and impractical and niche, because what Tubular Bell does apparently is that they absorb a scent and they can sniff people to identify that scent. That's all the stand does, which is so niche. It's not a fighting stand. It's not something intellectual. It's just that. And it's so obscure. And now I'm even more interested to see how is Lucy gonna fight a balloon dog. But it ends off on a really, really strange note. As you can see, my bookmark is right here. But I finished the whole thing. The entire volume ends off really, really strange when, I guess, Lucy is trying to seduce the First Lady. After she found out that the First Lady might be a closeted lesbian. And it's really weird considering that Lucy is a 14-year-old girl. But I guess I'd like to see where would this continue in volume 13. This actually begs the question, how will Steel Ball Run be animated? Because if they animate Steel Ball Run into 48 episodes, they may have to split it into two cores. If they split it into two cores, will they end off with Tubular Bells Volume 1 or Part 1? Hopefully not. Hopefully it ends off immediately after the Tattoo You fight. Maybe with a little bit of teaser, but it is a really weird cliffhanger to end with, by the way. But still really good. My favorite so far is still Volume 11, that's for sure. So, yeah. These are my thoughts and feelings on JoJo Volumes 7 to 12. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts? Comments below, let me know. Subscribe if you want more, and thanks for watching. I literally cannot speak anymore. I'm done.